What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fandom Empire Live. If you missed it last night, we were on here for, had to be 90 plus minutes. It was a heavy, heavy Star Wars show. So if you're looking for talk about that, maybe tune into that episode. We'll touch on it a little bit here tonight, but not as much as we originally intended. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all to keep up to date with all of our content. The main day that you can catch Fandom Empire Live is Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Um, but we sometimes will go live on other days. So be on the lookout for that. Joining me is always one of my partners in crime here, Randy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Just you know, trying to get to next week since I have some PTO coming up, and that's always a fun thing considering how many hours I tend to work every day. So, but yeah, I definitely can't wait to at least give my thoughts on the new Star Wars news that's come out, and I know that we got some fun topics to discuss tonight. So I can't wait.
Also joining us tonight, it's Matt. What's going on, buddy? How you doing? Excited to talk a little horror, a little bit of sports, some wrestling. What's happening with you, man?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. Just excited to talk about a little bit different things tonight.
So let's start here, guys. We'll have some video for everybody in a bit, but let's start with Tony Todd. Passed away. I believe I read he was 69 years old. Um, let's just talk about some of our fondest memories of Tony Todd and what you remember him for. We'll start with you, Randy.
So it's interesting because I was a kid when I saw Candyman, and that was my first exposure to him, and just the presence, the voice. Obviously, it helped. It was a really good movie too. That it was just like he was so captivating, and some of the other projects I saw him in, like one of my favorites is the remake for Night of the Living Dead. I thought that was so well done, and I really enjoyed that. Um, Obviously, we got to see him in Final Destination. It's like that's kind of like one of the more iconic roles he's definitely put out there. Um, I can't get it out of my eye. Like I had to watch it over the weekend just because it was, yeah, I had to do my little homage tour of stuff that he's been in. I really enjoyed him in Hatchet as well. But well, first and foremost, obviously, and I think it's going to be on everybody's kind of top tier list for him is always going to be Candyman, just because I think to me, in my opinion, that's kind of like that breakout role that really kind of put him on the map as a horror icon. And his his voice is so distinct, and anytime you could hear, whether it's video games or cartoons or any other just voice role that he's done, you're just like, yeah, that's the man right there. And it's a shame to be to lose him at 69. Obviously, and it kind of bums me out now because now I've had the opportunity a couple different times to uh, at least meet him at a con, and I never took the opportunity. I kind of wish I did, but you know, that's if you have those moments, take them. Don't sit there and hold off on them because you never know if you're ever going to get another chance. And I kind of wish I kind of wish I'd seized the moment there.
Matt, what about you with Tony Todd?
The first thing I ever remember Tony Todd in was Platoon. And I had to double back, and I couldn't remember. He was one of the sergeants in Platoon. Uh, and what was Platoon, like 86? I saw that. My dad was a big war movie buff. So anything that kind of came out, I watched. So that was that. I would definitely remember him being in Lean on Me as one of the security guards. Uh, that was two movies even before Candyman. Candyman's what put him on the map, but you said that voice was so distinct, and I keep on hearing going through my mind, and when he says he starts when he's telling the story of Hatchet, and just that distinct voice and the way he just smoothly says Louisiana, it gets you all goosebumped up and everything. So, and he's a great voice, great actor and everything, and he'll definitely be missed.
The thing that I remember Tony Todd from the most, sorry, this is what you get from me tonight, people, um, is not Candyman. I definitely don't remember him being in Platoon. Not that I'm doubting you. Love that movie. Haven't seen it in a long time though. Not Final Destination. And so many other pieces of work. Um, Tony Todd is in what I classify as like the first big blockbuster style episode of Smallville in season one. Um, the show is, I don't want to call it too grounded. It's a show about Superman growing up, obviously. But the show is, it starts fairly slow. You're not getting like episodes where you can see that they spent a lot of money on it. And then out of nowhere, Tony Todd is in the episode as a old Kent farmhand, and he has a relationship with Jonathan Kent, and um, it's this really sad story about a father who gets, infected with this disease, um, working at the Luther Corp plant, not LexCorp, Luther Corp people. Um, and he can't go home and see his kid because he's like shaking super, super bad. Like, think seizure times 1,000. He accidentally kills a guy because of it. Um, but for me, it resonates because it's like he did nothing wrong. He shows some villainous aspects towards the back half of the episode when you see he's getting desperate, and you go, okay, well, even though the guy hasn't, intentionally done anything wrong, he still has that side to him. Um, and I don't know if many actors that would have been available to Smallville back then um, would have had the range that Todd has. I think the episode's called Jitters, which would make sense. And it's just in terms of like really getting that first season into gear. I don't know where Smallville would have been without Tony Todd coming in and playing a significant role in that one episode. He's only in the one episode, and just obviously our thoughts are with him and his family, and just a tremendously talented individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And keeping with the superhero thing, I mean, hearing him as Zoom in the Flash was actually really cool too. So he definitely had maybe he just had that love for, comics in general. But it was nice to have such a distinct voice who is a seasoned veteran, and it's just an overall great actor just portraying some of these characters that we either grew up reading about or saw in video games or cartoons, and we got to see like a live action version of it with him portraying it. It was really cool.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. R.I.P. to the late great Tony Todd. Rest in peace. If you want to share your thoughts down in the comment section down below, if you missed the live show, feel free to do so. We'll definitely engage with them when we have the time to do so. Um, and yeah, so again, thoughts are with him and his family. I did see that picture, Matt, by the way. It's good stuff. Good movie. I haven't seen it in so long. But let's address some comments here. One of them is going to lead into our next topic, but Entertainment Wizard said almost met Tony Todd a few weeks ago, but he had to cancel. Really liked him in Night of the Living Dead remake. Kern in. Someone want to make that out for me?
It's Star
Sting?
Trek: The Next Generation.
That's right.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then the mysterious Shadow chimes in. I'm assuming Miramax is having issues with the Halloween TV series. No new announcements have been made in forever. Obviously, there are problems. Well, let's start here, shall we? There were multiple reports this week in the rumor mill that Scream was having some production issues and that they still hadn't finalized a script as shooting approaches, which isn't unheard of, by the way. Some people go to set um, and this script is very much still a work in progress. You typically don't want to do that. That's not a recipe for success in most cases. Just ask the Rise of Skywalker. Um, but I saw Randy's head dip there. Can't help it, man. Can't help it. God awful movie.
Yes.
But yeah, so apparently Scream's having problems. I wish I could sit here and say that I knew what those problems were. But apparently there's a real fear now that the start of filming might be delayed yet again. Um, But I'll say this. They set their release window late enough, I believe it was February 2026, that even if they lose a couple more months, they are still probably going to be safe. Now, if they lose significant more time, then who knows? Right? Like, to me, you have to get this right. You cannot screw up. You cannot rush a half-assed movie into production. You're already coming off the heels of a chunk, anyways, of your fan base not thrilled with how you handled the Melissa stuff. Obviously, Jenna Ortega exits with her growing popularity. Um, Hopefully, Kevin Williamson is fighting for a better script. I have no idea that is part of it. I hope he. I don't know if he's writing it or directing it. I heard he's directing it.
He's doing both.
Is he doing both? But who are the other writers on the project? Because I do believe there are some involved. Um, and it could be a case of Kevin doesn't like where it's at and isn't going to shoot it until he does. Meanwhile, the studio obviously wants to get this thing out for February 2026. You know, I know originally there were some hopes for a late 2025 release date. That's not going to happen. Um, as always, I preach patience. You know, I don't want to be patient. I'd like to see the next Scream movie. I'm excited for a Nev Campbell return and some of the stuff that sounds like is lined up for the movie. But at the end of the day, like, you still need it to be effective. You still need it to be good. It's got to do comparable numbers to 5 and 6. Um, and ideally, you'd like a little life left in the gas tank when it's done. Now, in terms of how this relates to Halloween, well, um, the poster there, is it Mysterious Shadow? I wanted to say Stranger. I got Knights of the Old Republic on my mind. Um, the the difference here is this: the Halloween series has no release date set. None. They didn't come out and say you are definitively getting the Halloween series in the year 2026. They didn't. And I know when those rumors blew up about, Michael being in a penitentiary and a Loomis character being involved and it being very Halloween Returns ish, which still could be the case. I'm not saying for sure because I simply do not know. Um, a lot of people jumped over the date that was attached to that rumor. And the date that was attached to that rumor was 2025, which I know Matt can probably recall this. I said to him in a private conversation and said in a very not private conversation on here on air with my former co-host and other people that were on at that time that there's just no way. Like, you are not turning around a 8 to 10 episode, you know, Halloween TV series in less than a year by the time you start shooting and then post production and all that. It would be terrible. It would be like the I Know What You Did Last Summer TV show, which was not good. Um, so while I don't think anything has been officially delayed because it can't really, the fact that the month of October has come and gone and Trancas and Miramax did not utilize that space to make an announcement about almost anything regarding the TV series, and I could be wrong here, and I'll eat some crow if I am, but to me, that tells me nothing is close enough to being able to announce. Because if it was, you absolutely utilize that October date. You don't do it in November or December. They were hoping, I don't know if you guys remember this, but at H45 last year, Malaki Cat made mention of, we're going to have some stuff to announce soon. They were hoping it would be in the month of October, but the rights issues didn't get, sorted out in time, and I think it ended up being like a November announcement for the TV series. That being said, there is no rights issues. The ball is in their court. We do know they had trouble, securing a showrunner. We do know that they have gone back and forth in terms of story options. We do know that in some way will connect to the original Halloween movie and certain characters involved in it. Um, but the fact that a year has passed and we got nothing in October, fellas, tells me that we should not be expecting news directly from the studio slash company anytime soon. What's your take on that? What's your take on Scream? What do you guys have for me here? Matt, we'll start with you.
Um, as far as Scream, as far as Scream goes, I want to trust Kevin Williamson with this. I think he's the driving force because Neve Campbell came back, and there's something that she liked a lot that made her want to come back because she really didn't have to come back, even though it was stupid not to have her in the first place. Um, but I think you might be right where Kevin Williamson's not going to do it till he's happy with the script. Everybody's happy with the script, but then you see the push from the studio. I would think realistically they would have to start shooting no later than March or April to get it out in time. I mean, get it out comfortably. And that's saying they shoot to probably about July, maybe August, and then gives them about and then 6 months to get it ready. They could do that, but I wouldn't start getting worried till if we've heard it hadn't started shooting by mid spring, then I'd be okay. What's going on? As far as the Halloween series, I'm starting to lose doubt that there is a series coming. I think we might be getting a movie. I don't know what, but like you said, last month nothing at all from Trancas or Monica Cod or John Carpenter himself. Nothing. So you're saying 2026, and I mean we haven't heard a peep. And then, unless I mean, I would expect we would know something relatively soon. Something, more so, anything. But the longer and longer it goes, it just has me worried that there's not going to be a TV show until maybe after the movies, maybe after 2028.
Well, I mean, we made mention that it's always easier to go from movie to TV show than TV show to movie. Like them
Right.
doing a movie would not necessarily be a surprise because we know that's their intent. Just not before the TV series. That being said, it's important to remember that currently there is no distribution deal in place for a movie.
I mean, there's like you said, there's nothing, not even a morsel out there right now. Not even a morsel came in October, and it just they're gonna have to get this right, and they're gonna have to nail it. The way you ended the movie, they got to get it right. They got to nail it, and they got to wait to. If we got to wait to 2026, fine, we'll wait to 2026. But at least let us know something. That's kind of how I feel.
Well, I mean that's the real question. It's what news can we get out of this? But so my take on Scream is that obviously they don't have anything concrete yet, which as we all know, scripts are always ever evolving, and that's just how it is. They're always going to make tweaks. They're always going to want to make sure that everything kind of feels right, at least from the director's standpoint. Because sometimes, not all the directors usually get it right. But I think if we don't start really hearing anything really ramping up until, mid spring or even early summer, I think you still can get something done. I think it's if once you start getting into those summer months that you really need to kind of worry about, how long is it going to take them to get everything filmed and post production and reshoots and things like that. And that's usually always a big sticking point with a lot of movies and how they get delayed. Uh, but it's also part of the business. And they know they've got a solid franchise on their hand that's going to make money. It's just going to be, how do they spin it this time around? Because you're going into the seventh movie and spin it to where everybody's happy. And as someone who, it's not like my favorite franchise, but I would rather them take their time and make sure it's right rather than them trying to push to hit a release window that may or may not happen. Um, as far as the Halloween TV series goes, uh, I feel like 2026 isn't going to happen. We don't even have. I mean, it's like I'm not so much worried about writers or directors or anything like that. But something that I am concerned about is there's absolutely no casting news. Usually, if you have a lead in mind or you have someone you want to approach, they're at least a rumor mill out there, at least giving us something. And the perfect opportunity would have been during October. Give us something, give us a little taste of potentially what's to come, and nothing. It's crickets. And that's concerning. Could they do a movie before the series? Sure, anything's possible. But at this rate, without even any confirmation of much of anything, really, I don't see this thing dropping until maybe 2028 at the earliest, which is not the worst thing in the world, all things considered. But I still feel like it would be smarter to give us 2027 at minimum, just so you can kind of ramp up on that big celebration we know is coming in 2028. But, we're not, we don't hold the keys to the kingdom. We don't have any type of that type of control. I know the three of us would probably push pretty hard to try to get a lot of stuff done, get something out there for the fans, let them know that their patience and faith will be well rewarded, and that we haven't seen anything like that yet. And it's kind of a bummer, not gonna lie. But that's Hollywood for you, right? That's kind of how things go for a lot of stuff. I mean, look at all the promises Disney gave us with Star Wars, and how many of them had they actually fulfilled? So it's just a bummer that the fans are the ones that are hurting more here than anybody else. And I just hope they get something soon. Have that faith rewarded.
Yeah, I'm not willing to go 2028. That's still a bit far off for me. I think that's their goal for their next movie. Much like Star Wars has a goal to have a movie out in 2027. I think both franchises want to take advantage of the 50-year anniversary mark, which makes sense. Um, it's to me, it's still early days, right? Like, if this was a Star Wars show, I would agree with you, Randy. But because it's a horror movie that is not going to require too much visual effects, um, like realistically, they're very clearly still in the writing process and the planning process. Um, but realistically, if you can get this production up and you're shooting even by this time next year, November, December, even January 2026, you could have it out by October. I think that is reasonable. That's about what the turnaround time was for Halloween 2018. Mind you, that's 1 2 hour movie or almost 2 hour movie in comparison to what'll probably be about 6 to 8 hours of a TV series. Um, I'm still confident um, that we are going to get a TV series, but I think it's pretty clear, considering how fast they wanted to try to turn this thing around. At least originally, that was the talk. Um, that it is going much slower than what they intended. And to me, that's okay if they get it right. I think what you can't do, and this might be disheartening for some people, but like you can't have the next year pass, as in 11 months or so until next October, um, and not have a peep officially come out from Trancas. At some point, they have to talk, and if they don't, then I'm in Randy's camp, if not far, far worse. So I wish I could sit here and say that we have all the answers, but like I said, the sources that we do have around Halloween projects, sometimes they can say things, sometimes they just flat out don't know. But the fact that we were hearing way more about the TV series back in March, April, May, even compared to, September, October, November is wild to me and not necessarily a great sign. Um, let's shift gears here though and do some FE time. That's right. Some
Tiffy time.
Tiffy time. Fandom buzz time. So we bring up some topics here that Randy, can you pull the show notes I sent you earlier? I cannot pull them up at the moment. Um, so if you think it has no chance of happening, uh, FE1, unlikely it happens. FE2, FE3 means it could go either way, aka the cop out answer. FE4, most likely it does happen. FE5, it's a lock, bank it, book it, seal, deliver. Here we go. You can also give like a little bit of a description. This isn't really meant to be, go on a long tangent type topic. But Randy, why don't you give them to us, man? What do we got here?
So based on the what you have here, I'm going to assume that your question is: are we going to see the first of Simon Kinberg's movies in 2027? Is that what this one is for?
Correct. So Jeff
Okay.
Snyder put out there on, I believe it was Sunday, that he believes the intent is to have the first of the Kinberg movies line up with a 2027 50th anniversary release date. Where do we put that on the FE scale, Randy?
Wow, that's pretty ambitious considering.
It's
Oh,
very ambitious depending on how long he's been working on it.
that's true. It is possible that he has been working on scripts for a while now, and he just finally got something together, and they're like, okay, we're going to greenlight this. But I'm going to go FE3 only because of how ambitious it was. If it was, say, 2028, I would probably be like most likely to happen. But to get this announced this late in the year and not really have a whole lot in place yet, that's really ambitious considering how FX heavy it's going to be. And so yeah, that's why I'm just going to say FE3. It can go either way.
If they can secure a December release window of that year, so obviously not right on the 50-year anniversary, but if they can secure a December release window, I will give them more of a shot of hitting that, because that's essentially 3 years and 1 month from today. I think that's hittable. I do. What I don't understand is what movie's coming when, or if they even know. I'm still not overly confident in the leadership there. I had a great conversation last night with Ben and Zach on it, but Anyways, I'm going to go FE2. I believe that might be the intent, but there's a difference between, having the best intentions and ending up in hell. So, which is where Star Wars fans have been for a while. Matt, what about you, man? The likelihood that this new Star Wars trilogy will kick off in the year 2027.
I'm kind of with you. If it's December, then I can see it happening. If it's earlier than that, probably not. So me, I'm probably gonna go. It could go either way. FP3.
FE3. What do we got next, Randy?
So you have listed here Cody Rhodes champ.
All right. So, will Cody Rhodes still be champ after WrestleMania? Randy.
See, he doesn't need to have the type of run that Roman did. So I guess it really depends on his opponent, right? And since we're really not there yet, I guess, if it's someone, say, young and up and coming, I'm going to say chances are he won't be, but that's so far ahead. I really don't know, but I'm going to say, just because I don't think he needs the type of run that Roman had. And I do feel like they're planting the seeds for potential heel turn at some point. I'm going to say that he is unlike at the FE2. He's unlikely that he's still champ.
Matt.
No.
So is
So what essentially? So you're asking us, do we think he's not going to be champ at WrestleMania, or he's going to lose? I'm trying to understand the question.
So basically, do you think Cody Rhodes will still be champion after WrestleMania?
No,
FE1, there's no chance it happens, or all the way to FE5, it's a lock.
it's a lock. He's not going to be champion. I don't think they're going to do the kind of run that they gave Roman. I really think it might be Cena, it might be Punk, or it might be somebody we're not expecting who's going to be the champ after WrestleMania. And I think my personal opinion is either Cena or Punk is going to win the Royal Rumble. So
I would very much love for you to be right, but
I know you would.
Doubts.
I know you would. But I think what I just can't. If Cena's gonna break the record, what bigger spectacle for him to break it on than WrestleMania when he's not that this is gonna be his last WrestleMania. That's the way I look at it. Or if you're gonna give it to Punk, let Punk beat let Punk I can't talk. Let Punk beat him, and then SummerSlam could be Cena versus Punk, and Cena gets the belt that way. Cena's gonna get the belt at one of the major pay-per-views. It's just which one.
I think it's more likely for SummerSlam.
See, I don't know if it has to be a major one with some of these pay-per-views now being overseas and worth an ungodly amount of money, and like they're doing bloody Elimination Chamber in the Rogers Center where the Blue Jays play. It's Elimination Chamber. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going with FE4 though. He will more than likely be champ because, well, people keep saying he doesn't need the Roman run, which I agree with. I don't think we need to see a run like that for a long time now. It should be special. This regime seems to like the competitors to hold on to the title a little bit longer. And the only reason Braun Breaker ever even lost the Intercontinental title was so that they could get Jey Uso into the bloodline story and have it make a little more sense. Um, it, you know, unfortunately, I think it happens. I don't necessarily think it should. What do we got next, Randy?
Soto lands where?
Pretty straightforward. It's not an FE question, but where do we think Soto lands in the offseason, fellas?
Well, you got two Mets fans and you're a Blue Jays fan. So what do you think, Randy?
Well, according to you, you don't think we need him. So it's that you made a comment like we don't want him. Unfortunately, even though he's in talks, or say even though the Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Mets are all going to meet with him, that's not necessarily where he's going to land. He's going to land where either he feels he can win a championship, or is just back up the truck. Obviously, he's not going to get a ton of money, but would I like to see him as a Met? Sure, just because it's another piece. Granted, I just don't want to get to the point where we're looking like the damn New York Yankees of old, where that's all they did was buy their damn talent. Would I like to see him as a Met? Yes. Do I see him signing as a Met? No, I do not. I see him going to where he feels it's going to be most advantageous for him. And, I think it could end up being Boston.
That's interesting. That is not what I expected out of you.
Well, I can say this much. The Jays are owned by arguably the deepest pockets in the sport, Rogers Communication, who's about to get even more richer. And yet they find a way to almost, I do say almost, never be able to close the deal with a big fish. Now, tax issues can happen, but there are ways around that. And the thoughts of moving to Canada also doesn't necessarily hit well with some people. I understand there's a Dominican Republic side of this that is playing out in the Jays' favor a little bit, and they'll more than likely have to pay a premium to get him anyways. Like, he's not going to Toronto to take less money or the same money. It'd have to be more. And I'm just not necessarily convinced it's going to happen. I'm expecting the typical, well, they were in on it and they were so close, but they're a first place loser.
Just like
Uh,
Otani.
yeah, like and you know what? I really can't stand the Jays GM or president. So as much fun as it would be, I'm going to put this under FE1. No chance it happens.
Do I like the thought of Soto being there, hitting in between help me, Randy, Lindor and Vientos? Hell yeah, I do. But do I think that's the best use of Uncle Stevie and all his money? No, I don't. I think we could go out and legitimately get two really good pitchers. We have to re-sign Pistol Pete Alonso. Had to. And we need to revamp that bullpen. Do I think does Uncle Stevie have the money to do it all? Yeah, he does. What do I think? It's going to happen. No, I don't. So I want to. Like I said, there's the thought of him being there and being in a Met uniform and just to get him away from the damn Yankees. I love, but I just don't want us to go so far over the luxury tax. And he wants to spend all this money to help because it's not just, help we need. We need a center fielder. We need a right fielder. You got to re-sign Pete. Second base, who knows? McNeil couldn't come back. What are they going to do? We got Vientos at third. That's nice. Pete, we got to re-sign. Catcher, we're good. And so we need 2 to 3. We need two legitimate starters. I've heard they're in on Corbin Burns big time, which I would like to get from Baltimore, and some of the arms for the bullpen. The Mets are not that far away. I mean, the thing about it with this past year, everybody was like, oh, no, I mean, this was supposed to be our sit and wait. Let's get a good foundation. And this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. Now there comes expectations. And the expectation is to do what we need to do with Uncle Stevie's large pockets. And that's what he needs to do, just not with Soto. So for me, FE2. That's where I'm at.
Well, I mean, he's a good player. There's no
I
doubt
know
about
he
that.
is.
He's better than a good player, but
they're talking about giving him more than Otani, and I think that's bullshit.
I don't think that's
No,
going to happen.
they are saying they are saying they're going to give more than Otani, which I think is bullshit because Otani is a two-way player. His ERA is going to, I mean, he's going to get you easily 12, at least. We can see what he was going to do with the Dodgers. He was a 12-win pitcher when he's with the damn Angels. Look what he's going to do when he's got bats behind him with the Dodgers. He could easily hit up about 20 and get you about 160, 180 Ks. And with his batting numbers, he deserves every bit of dollar. And they're telling me, and Boris is going to try to get him a contract north of Otani's. Get out of my face. That's another reason I don't want him, because Boras is his agent.
Say what you want about Scott Boras. He makes his clients rich.
I know he does.
Indeed, he does.
I know he does.
There's a reason he's the best at what he does, even if most of us don't necessarily like it. All right, so
we got one topic left.
Yeah, what do we got?
You have here 2 Star Wars movies in 2026.
So what are the odds that we get 2 Star Wars movies in 2026? Originally scheduled to be The Mandalorian. Well, actually, the original schedule would have been the Rey movie in May, but originally scheduled to be The Mandalorian and Grogu, and then possibly the Rey movie, which now might be a trilogy, and there's more on that from the Hollywood Reporter, which we will touch on to end the show here momentarily. But the James Mangold movie could take it. I'm going to make this real simple. I think there is an FE2 with this one. I think it's unlikely to happen at this point, even though they wanted 2 movies out in 2026. I just don't feel it's likely, and I don't know if anybody has had an opportunity to see it yet, but the Hollywood Reporter had an article out today on Lucasfilm and how they're developing some of these things. And again, it's from their source, which they did not name, obviously. I got to tell you, Randy, it does not paint Star Wars or Lucasfilm in a very positive light. And I'm coming off of a fairly positive episode last night with Zach and Ben from the IPC podcast and the Star Wars Underworld. We had a bunch of fun on here. But what are your best guesses on 2 Star Wars movies in 2026?
Honestly, it's unlikely to happen. It's an FE2 from me, just because we already know that Mandalorian Grogu is filming, and they're still they're trying to get ready to finish up here, and we know they've got plenty of time between now and then to get it out by then. But unless something magically happens where we see production ramp up for one of these other films and they start filming soon, like early next year, I don't see how it's even possible, to be perfectly honest, because we know with Star Wars, they're going to try to go for big, flashy special effects, and that takes time. Getting the sound right for that sort of thing takes time. Reshoots, all that fun stuff that goes on with these movies. Again, unless they're doing it, that'd be early next year. They magically all of a sudden there's a script, there's everybody's cast, and we've got people going. No, it's really unlikely that it's going to happen. Are we going to get Mandalorian Grogu? Yes, we're going to get Mandalorian Grogu. That's at this point, that's the only one I can for sure say that yes, we can see in 2026. Beyond that, there's a lot of work to do if they think they're going to put out a second one. So it's definitely an FE2 from me.
Matt, what about you?
I mean, I'm probably FE2. What little I've kept up with, what I hear from y'all fine gentlemen, I would probably be in the same boat, FE2. I don't think it's going to happen. Could it? If you're putting Grogu out in May, and then whatever, and then no, put Grogu out in May, and then Ray movie out in December, maybe. But I've always known it's always taken 2 years to do a Star Wars movie, essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, longer than that in some cases. So,
But isn't what's his name shooting Fantastic Four right now?
You talking about Pedro Pascal?
Yeah.
Sorry, repeat that.
Isn't Pedro Pascal shooting Fantastic Four right now?
Yes.
I was gonna say, what isn't he shooting right now?
I know
that yeah.
He might not be doing a Corona commercial right now.
That poor dude. No, I shouldn't say that poor dude because he's being handsomely rewarded for it, but definitely has no personal life whatsoever at the moment.
You got to figure that anything for Last of Us Season 2, that if there's anything extra that he has to do with that. Yeah, this dude does have no life except for promoting
the Gladiator 2 a few months ago.
Yep. God, I hope that's good.
I heard some really good things from a few people that had the opportunity to go check it out. I saw some early reviews and sounds good so far. So
Denzel usually doesn't do bad movies. Usually.
Denzel. Anyways, that is going to do it for this portion of the show. We're going to cut some stuff out of today's show. So, Matt, thanks for coming out and spending an hour with us, man. And
all right, sir.
Hanging out and sharing your thoughts, dude. And really appreciate your contributions to the channel and being a sponsor. Without people that sign up for the Patreon and without people that sponsor, there'd be no channel. So thank you to all you guys.
No problem at all, buddy.
There you have it, Mr. Matt Whitfield. He will be, in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, he'll be back. Randy, that moves us to a little something, and we're probably only going to touch on one of these topics and wrap up.
Okay.
But a little something that I like to call Star Wars. All right, so I'm not going to be able to pull the article up, unfortunately, but I can tell you this, and I was not entirely aware of this, so I've been skimming through it here the last 15 minutes or so, and there was a pretty big Hollywood Reporter article that came out from one of the guys that had run the reports the other day, who provides some clarity. Well, I guess, clarity into the development process going over at Lucasfilm right now. And essentially, he said that, and this is from Boris Kit, that Ray is involved in so many of their feature film pitches right now because she's like kind of the character that survived episode 9. And according to this guy's source, Lucasfilm views Ray as their most their biggest, most important asset to the franchise cinematically at this point in time. And let me tell you, again, this is coming from Boris Kit, the Hollywood Reporter. Their source is there. It's coming specifically from their source. Said this, that they identify Ray as their most valuable cinematic asset. And I gotta tell you, Randy, and this is only the first statement, by the way, there's more. Um, that alone speaks 1,000 things wrong with the studio to me. If that is the conclusion that you draw in 2024, and I like Ray, I think Ray is one of the better characters to come out of that sequel trilogy. But if you think that she is your most valuable cinematic asset, then you have the wrong people in charge.
If they think she's his most valuable asset, I'd like to buy drugs from them because I want to know what it's like to live on their planet. Yeah, I don't agree with that. There's so much lore. There's so many characters that have helped create this universe that are far more important that they could build upon. I don't understand. And well, okay, maybe I kind of do. It's the whole idea of having like that female protagonist, that's like the all-encompassing hero, because we all know that one of the things they like to do is give everybody a shot, and they want to be all inclusive, and I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is a character that, while good and while developed as best as they could over time through the 3 movies, I just feel like there are other characters they could hitch their wagon to and go off in a different direction and just kind of world build with these characters. I mean, you could use Din Djarin, you could use Ahsoka, you could use Thrawn, because there's so many stories. There's a lot to tell with Thrawn that they really, even though, yes, you have the books, but if you're talking about cinematically, there's a lot there that you could explore with Thrawn. There's so many different characters that are more endearing, that are fan favorites, that people could really get behind. That to say it's Rey is, do you even watch Star Wars? I mean, at least that's how I feel about it. Like I said, it's nothing against Rey as a character. I just feel like there are other characters that are people are more endeared to, that there could be a lot they could do a lot with. And I know that Filoni's going to do what he can with Ahsoka and Din Djarin and Grogu and Thrawn and his vision for what he has planned. I just don't see it, unless you're going to bring in some characters in her movies that are going to truly challenge her and truly help her grow, and that the characters can feed off of one another. Because that's like a key thing here. If you look at any good movie, the villain and the hero always find a way of feeding off each other and making each other better. And without any other information on Rey's movies other than it's Rey centric, I can't get behind that notion.
Yeah, I want to be careful to not go off on too long of a tangent here because we're trying to wrap up the show. But
sorry,
like it's wild, dude. Like, people, hear me out. Star Wars is a fictional franchise. It's not real. It's made up. Make believe. Mythology. Source material. That's right, it does exist, despite what some people say. And you've been doing it since 1977. And if you think your most valuable asset is the lead female character coming out of an extremely divisive, franchise hurting sequel trilogy, well, you have Darth Vader, Yoda, by the way, Han, Luke, and Leia, who you refuse to recast, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, aka Hayden Christensen. Like, just wild. You mentioned Thrawn, in terms of video game characters, Star Killer, Revan. Like, there's so many places.
Hell, even Cal Kestis, considering what he's done in his 2 soon to be 3 games.
Like, it's wild. Now, again, it's not an official Lucasfilm statement. But it's also not coming from mom and pop's, underground basement show. It's the Hollywood Reporter, right? So, like, it's wild to have that level of ignorance and to think that she is your most valuable asset. Now, I understand from the perspective of, well, we're not going to remake anything and we don't want to start any new timelines, so we need to do something post episode 9. But this is Star Wars. You're literally doing a TV show and eventually a second season to it and a movie that is dealing with Mortis level stuff where a very dead Anakin Skywalker very visibly interacted with Ahsoka multiple times during that series. One full episode all about it. Right? Like, these are the things people want to see. You can't live just on nostalgia. I do agree you need to create new interesting characters. You brought up Randy about them being able to you know, create new characters, and you might only go as far as your villain. They had a great villain. They killed him off in the last trilogy too, with just multiple bait and switch shit with that, and creatives arguing over which direction they were going to go with Kylo Ren. But um, the equally baffling part to me here is, despite the Simon Kinberg news coming out, okay, wait for it, is apparently the race is also for Rey, and not all of these movies will be made, according to Boris Kitt. So it's internal competition at Lucasfilm. So that Rey movie we've been hearing about with the Stephen Knight one, if we see that, we will not see Simon Kinberg's trilogy, is essentially what they were saying. If we see Simon Kinberg's trilogy, we essentially won't see that movie. And it's just like, have some fucking confidence in what you're doing. Like, put a team together on a project, announce what you need to announce, and go forward until you get it right. Like, it just, I went from being very positive and very upbeat about the Simon Kinberg stuff, and like I said, had a great conversation last night, to, like, I'm pretty adamantly right back in the, you need to fire Kathleen Kennedy or force her into retirement as soon as humanly possible and get some new leadership in there. Because and again, I'm a bus driver, a half-ass YouTuber. I don't believe that someone who says Ray is their most valuable cinematic asset, and again, I like the character, and I think they could do really interesting, cool things with the character. I'm for a trilogy that follows her significantly after the events of the sequel trilogy. I'm on board for all of that. But to think that she's your most significant asset, by the way, we didn't even mention Grogu,
Yeah.
or Din, um, and you also think pitting creatives against one another in your own studio while they're reporting back to the same people is going to work out well. I just like I'm struggling here, man.
You know, the most important asset that they have is the lore, because there's so many different directions
There's
they
no
can go with
lore.
it.
There's no source material. None of it exists. It's basically the story they're singing again today.
Yeah, we all know they're full of shit, but it's just the idea. There are so many different directions they could go to create new stories, create new characters, add to the what's already there, that they're so, like you said, they have a one part, they're just so gun-ho on trying to do this stuff with Ray. And again, I have no problems with it. I mean, I'm fine with them putting out a Ray trilogy. I'm fine with her rebuilding the Jedi Order. I'm fine with the idea of the character growing to a point of where people wanted to see her go, but we saw what happened with episodes 8 and 9 after 7. So it's a shame. It's a shame that there has to be that type of competition. Work together. Screw that. Let's get everything out. Let's make sure everybody gets their vision out. Yeah, and it's not like they can't afford it. So there shouldn't be competition. It should be working together to put out the best Star Wars product you possibly can, to reward the fans who have stuck by them through thick and thin, regardless of what's happened, whether it's the original Clone Wars movie or episode 2 or episode 9. It's just this shit needs to be squashed. It really does. And you're right. It's time for new leadership if they can't get it done. It's just how it has to be. I get you're trying to push a narrative of some sort because you're trying to hitch your wagon to just Ray, but people are smarter than that. Star Wars fans are smarter than that. And by insulting their intelligence by saying something like that, you're not going to make a lot of money that way. You really aren't. You're going to piss off a lot of people, and they're just going to be like, "Nah, good. I'm good." And they'll show it by not going to see the movie, and that's a shame. That's really a shame if it gets to that point.
Yeah, man. Again, like, it's not an anti-Ray thing for me. I think she's a strong enough character to be
Agreed.
a significant part of the next trilogy. And like you mentioned it earlier, in terms of like creating new characters and seeing what comes out of that for the next trilogy, that excites me, right? Like, I get legitimate excitement at the prospect of, okay, so they got another shot at new characters. But like, when you have, again, it's not like it came out of Kathleen Kennedy's mouth, but it's hard to not give it a lot of credit when it's coming from the Hollywood Reporter and um, a place of significant consequence in the entertainment industry, and it's coming from their sources. Like, this doesn't seem like a studio. I'm going to link you to the whole thing, and I think you should read it when you have a shot, Randy. But I'm sure you can just Google it too. But um, like, this to me does not scream a franchise that has figured out its direction. And if you haven't figured out your direction yet, you're not successfully going to start to put out all these movies all of a sudden. And, I mean, you might, but you might drive it further into the ground, right? Like, we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, though, that is going to do it for our discussion tonight. My dog's got to go outside, so I got to get to it. Randy, where can everybody find you at? What do you got going on?
So obviously Tuesday's here, and you never know when I'll pop up on some other day here. You can't tell. But also at Giggity Giles on X, and Yeah. Also, I'm actually recording later. The Sports Brew podcast, where we just drink, talk shit, talk sports, and have a lot of fun. You just Google the word sports and brew, and you should find us no problem.
Yes, Soto's not going to go to the Jays. Let's just end that now. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications all. Big thank you to our channel sponsors, Jesse's Storytime Spectacular. Go check out his channel. Did some really cool things with the Blair Witch Project not too long ago. Jason Knight with Backtrack Cinema. Check him out. Ryan at Colleague Nation and Matt, who was on the show earlier. Without them and their contributions, we simply would not be here on a weekly basis. Please feel free to sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/Fandom Empire, or just click the thumbs up and leave a comment. We would love the engagement and to hear your thoughts on all things fandom. But last but not least, once again, our thoughts are with Tony Todd and his family. May he rest in peace.